That is Tropical Storm Sally off of Naples, Florida. It is Saturday, September 12th, 2020, the 41st anniversary of Hurricane Frederick making landfall in Mobile County as a powerful storm. We watch, literally, for the threat of a hurricane. Mobile County now under a hurricane watch, meaning within 48 hours, there could be hurricane force winds moving into the area. They are possible, not guaranteed, but possible. And now's the time to really start thinking about your plan for what you need to do if a hurricane comes close to our coastline. I'll walk you through the forecast and what we know right now. There, of course, as of 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Tropical Storm Sally, winds just 40 miles an hour. But as you saw from the radar, it's a rainmaker, and it will continue to be a rainmaker if nothing else. In the next 2 days, almost all computer projections, whether they were from earlier today or later today, they all take it toward the northwest, gradually strengthening. Now, what this doesn't show you is how fast it's moving, but there's going to be a turn in the forecast position, simply because once it gets close to the coast, it is going to slow down, the steering winds will shift, and eventually send it to the northeast. Now notice for the NBC 15 area centered on Mobile Bay, we are pretty much in the bend of that turn, and that means we are going to get impact regardless of how extreme it's going to be. We're going to get impact. Here's the forecast cone. From the National Hurricane Center, it shows steady winds projected from 60 to 70 to 80 miles an hour by 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday. Within that cone, it's just for the center of the storm. So it is possible the storm could still be in the Gulf of Mexico on Monday afternoon, or it could be pretty close to Mobile Bay with winds near 80 miles an hour. And that wind is a rough projection. It's not a guaranteed projection. Notice as you go to Tuesday afternoon, Mobile, New Orleans, Gulfport, Biloxi, all there in the middle of that cone for what will likely be a hurricane moving toward the north and then toward the northeast. The forecast cone broadens out as we go into Wednesday and Thursday because of uncertainty. We're not sure exactly where the position will be, and you'll notice even there, the center point could take a turn toward the Florida Panhandle. The sooner it would make landfall, the less strong it would be. The later it makes landfall, potentially the stronger it could be. However, sitting over the Gulf of Mexico also can increase at some point wind shear or dry air coming in from land. So those are just some of the variables. When you look at this forecast cone compared to the last couple of days, it's like setting your GPS for a trip from Key West to New Orleans. Halfway through, you'll hear recalculating. When you get to Tallahassee, recalculating. You get to Pensacola, recalculating, and that's exactly what we do to make these forecast cones. Every time we get new data about a change in the atmosphere, we recalculate, and that's why the forecast does change and will change. Here's the outline of the Hurricane Watch. Baldwin County, Mobile County, south of Interstate 10, coastal Mississippi, and most of southeastern Louisiana back to New Orleans. In the Florida Panhandle, south of I-10 along the coast, you have a tropical storm watch, and that watch for you means winds between 40 and 74 miles an hour are possible, not guaranteed, but possible. Later tonight or early tomorrow, there will be hurricane warnings issued to replace the watch. As we become a little more certain, there will also be tropical storm warnings on either side of the hurricane warning to account for the uncertainty. Now, we know that there will be a strong wind coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, pushing water against the coast. So there are storm surge watches also, even though you see most of Baldwin and Mobile counties filled in, and even Jackson County. The storm surge watch is for the coastal portions of those counties and also the rivers that feed out to the bays, and I'll show you why in a moment. It's all about the wind pushing water up against the coast. You saw New Orleans also watching this extremely carefully. New Orleans is a city below sea level, and the last thing you need is something projected like this. So we'll get through Sunday on the northern Gulf Coast without any big changes in weather. It'll get breezy at the coast, rip current risk will increase, and then by Monday morning, this projection has a circulation well south of Mobile Bay, southeast of the tip of Louisiana. The yellow is the heavier rain, and the heaviest rain In this case, just like typically, the greatest impact will be on the right of the path, and that's critical. So look at this projection Monday evening at 10 o'clock. It shows a strong wind pointing towards southeastern Louisiana along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That would generate large storm surge for southeastern Louisiana, Lake Pontchartrain, and potentially New Orleans. Those of us in the NBC 15 area, an east wind picking up, becoming southeasterly going into Tuesday. And if this particular projection holds true, and remember, the center of that could easily be 60, 70 miles away in any direction, by noontime on Tuesday, we pick up more of a southeast wind. We begin to see storm surge. Dog River, Fowl River, the Mississippi Gulf Coast starts to pick up more and more storm surge, and still heavy rain along the Mississippi-Alabama state line. From Tuesday to Wednesday morning, moving inland, then beginning to make that turn. But look at the winds for the NBC 15 area, due south out of the Gulf. So it's possible that for some of us, we could see a greater storm surge after it makes landfall than before it makes landfall. And that scenario on Wednesday, it's also one where you could have feeder bands, bands of rain coming in from the Gulf that could increase your threat of tornado. So when a tropical storm or hurricane makes landfall, it doesn't mean all the threats stop. There's still a lot of things that can linger behind it. And ultimately, we're going to get some rain from this. You saw the heavy bands of rain projected to the right of the track. Look at these totals. In the next 5 days, it could be 10 to 20 inches of rain in the Gulf of Mexico. Along the coastline, along I-10 and south of I-10, still some really big numbers, anywhere from 8 to 12 inches. And that doesn't mean it'll rain everywhere 8 to 12. It means in the peak spots, you could see 8 to 12 inches of rain over 5 days. North of I-10 into northern Baldwin County, northern Mobile County, northern Santa Rosa County, for example, 6 to 9 inches of rain. Inland counties of Alabama, Washington, Conecuh, Monroe, you could see 4 to 8 inches of rain. Now, these are not unusual amounts for a tropical storm or hurricane, but the totals will depend on if it slows down. That's going to be a big factor. So keep up with that. There will be a flash flood watch that will start on Monday, and at some point there will likely be tornado watches. All of this comes with tropical weather as it makes landfall. So it is still at least 2 days away from making landfall. And when you look at the average accuracy of a hurricane forecast from the National Hurricane Center, they compile their stats just like athletes compile stats. On average, 2 days away, your error can still be 75 miles in any direction. And that's why the cone is 150 miles across. So there's still a lot of uncertainty as to exactly where the center will be, which controls a lot of the impact. The winds you saw projected there, 75, 80, 85 miles an hour, it's still plus or minus 10 miles an hour. Now that's an average. In some cases it's right on. In other cases it could be off by 20 miles an hour. So these are all the things you have to plan for when you're talking about what will the impact be. The impact could be high wind, storm surge, flooding rain, or tornadoes. Those are the 4 things we want to know, but each of those 4 things is kind of controlled by the size of the storm, how strong the storm is, and how fast it's moving. And just take those 3 variables, size, strength, and speed. For each one, you could have low, medium, high, or small, medium, large. So 3 possibilities for size and strength and speed. That's 3 times 3 times 3. 27 combinations of all of the things you see beneath there. And that plays into what the impact is going to be. And that's why really no one can be totally specific on what's coming when it's still 2 days away, especially 2 days away. So Sally, that's the big deal. In the Gulf of Mexico, Tropical Storm Paulette is a big deal in the central Atlantic because that is heading toward Bermuda as a strong hurricane. Meanwhile, Renee has weakened to a tropical depression, and as of late afternoon, tropical depression number 20 way out in the eastern Atlantic. It's a lot to keep up with. In the NBC 15 area, this is our radar. Late afternoon, it will be what we have tonight. Periods of showers moving through. Same story for tomorrow. A mixture of clouds, high humidity. Mobile's airport, late afternoon, relative humidity 70%, and the winds out of the southeast at 9 miles an hour. And a projection for the Sunday forecast for the NBC 15 area. By the afternoon, we'll begin to see bands of rain moving through an east to northeast breeze. It's not going to be windy. It will be breezy at the coast, but then Sunday night into Monday is when you've really got to prepare for what could be on the way. So when we look at our 7-day tracker, temperatures stay upper 80s, then mid 80s as we get cloudier and rainier and windier between Monday and Tuesday. All of this will be dictated by, again, exactly how and where Tropical Storm Sally arrives, likely as a hurricane. In the early to the middle part of our week, very wet. Later in the week, things will sort of subside and get back to more typical for this time of the year. So another quick view of the forecast. Stay updated with what's going on if you are anywhere along the Gulf Coast. I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Alan Sealls.